The people that I have featured in these videos, the streamers that are featured in these videos, are not people that I consider to be dummies by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they are people that I not only subscribe to, but am also a complete and utter fanboy of, both them as players and them as entertainers. In no way am I insinuating that they or any content that they produce are dummies. Merely, I am utilizing media at hand to showcase amazing things that people are doing when playing this game, and I aspire to be as good at either content creation or gameplay as they are. Now, my WordPad and I have spent an awful lot of time together trying to produce this exact video. And I can only imagine that the videos that I create that come after this are going to be more involved than even this one is. So I ask that if this is something that you find even remotely valuable, that you please consider subscribing to the channel and please consider following me on Twitch. I stream almost every single day on Twitch, primarily playing Escape from Tarkov, and once in a while we do some random variety stuff. The statistics for these kinds of things absolutely matter. And I'd love to be able to create and continue to create this type of content for you guys as the audience. So if this is something that you deem to be educational in nature, or hell, even a little bit entertaining, please consider following, subscribing, and commenting. Let me know what you think, and let me know what else along the lines of this game you would like to see produced or delved into, evaluated, etc. And I will do my level best to make sure that that gets produced. Okay? All right, here we go.
Server is kind of dead right now. Oh, fuck. Oh, rip.
The largest shooting game streamers seem to be playing Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah, on our right. You fucked me up.
Unless, of course, you're the doc.
I'm never gonna play that game! Ever!
But that's okay. Maybe one day we'll win you over, Doc. This is the beginning of a multi-part video series where I intend to provide an in-depth look on what Tarkov is, what Tarkov is not, basic tutorials on game mechanics, and ultimately, how to survive. Hi everybody, my name is Onepeg MG, and this is episode 1 of my Tarkov for Dummies series, The Introduction.
Oh my god. Whoa! No! I think I just beat Tarkov.
Escape from Tarkov, developed by Russian-based Battlestate Games, describes themselves as a hardcore and realistic online first-person action RPG simulator with MMO features and a story-driven walkthrough. The game takes place in various parts of the near future, albeit fictitious city of Tarkov and its outskirts, which was the subject of a massive military conflict that erupted following a political scandal in the Norvinsk region of Russia. This was due to shady dealings by a corrupt and greedy corporation, the Terra Group. Players assume the role of someone that was trapped in the city after its borders were closed due to this military incursion. Players have the option of filling the role of either a private military company character, abbreviated as PMC, or as a scavenger, known as Scavs. The PMC is the game's primary player character. There are 2 primary opposing factions for players to choose from. The first, American in origin, known as USEC, is described as being hired by Terra Group to hinder the progress of any ongoing investigation into the company's dealings. The second, Russian-based Bear, was hired by regional officials to investigate and uncover any illicit activities caused by Terra Group. Due to the city's shutdown, however, all that matters now is survival and escape. At the beginning of the game, players choose which faction they would like to be a member of. Currently, this holds no benefit to either side, other than a language difference in which the PMC speaks when using audible emotes. The third faction in the game, Scavs, are citizens of Tarkov that decided to stay in the city despite the conflict in order to capitalize on the chaos. They are the city's criminal element, and have adapted to this new way of life. Scavs can be both player-controlled or bots, and a player is able to queue into a game using a Scav character every 10 minutes. When choosing to play their PMC character, a player selects a gear loadout from their personal stash inventory that can be made up of a wide variety of armor and weapons, which are either found in-game or purchased from vendors. The player then chooses a destination, decides whether or not they would like to insure any or all of their items, and loads in at the beginning of the map's duration of time. This is known as a raid. If, during a raid, the PMC is killed, the player's inventory is then up for grabs, minus, of course, a select minor amount of inventory space, which can be permanently lost due to the looting of the player's body by another player, or if the items were uninsured. Conversely, of course, the player's PMC character, in killing another PMC or Scav, has the ability to loot that body for any and all usable items that the player deems necessary, which those players would then permanently lose. Additionally, there are static loot points and item crates that are accessible throughout every map and will be delved into in a future video. Should the PMC escape, they are awarded with an amount of experience and are able to keep any and all loot that was taken when they extracted. The player still earns some experience on death. However, bonus experience is awarded if they are able to survive. Experience is awarded in a wide variety of ways, from shooting and killing another player, to looting dead player bodies, opening item crates, and picking up items throughout the world out in the open. Should the Scav die, the same rules apply as the PMC character, although the player can take some comfort in knowing that the loss did not come at the cost of the player's own in-game wallet. Should the Scav successfully escape, the Scav's inventory is able to then be transferred to the player's stash. This has historically been an ideal way to get items to use or trade for money if the player finds themselves in a bit of a monetary pinch. Currently, the player's base stash inventory size is determined by the EFT game package that was purchased, the size of which is measured in squares or units. This base inventory ranges from 10 by 20 with the standard edition to 10 by 62 with the largest edition, Edge of Darkness. This inventory size can be further expanded upon later in the game through the purchasing of cases and containers designed to hold various different types of items, currency, and weapons, as well as future expansion ideas that have been tossed around where the player will be able to earn their way into a larger inventory size. Players will find that some of their time will be spent in organizing their stash in order to fit their loot into it, aptly given the pet name Tarkov Tetris. As time goes on, inventory management becomes an important aspect of the game, as both the quality of loot and the player's proficiency with the game's mechanics improve. Later in this series, we will focus on inventory tips, organizational ideas, and rules of thumb to consider when organizing your inventory. A player wants the operating theme for their inventory to be one in which the inventory works for the player, as opposed to the player working for the inventory. Traders in Escape from Tarkov are an integral part of the game, not only supplying valuable items, guns, ammunition, armor, medications, and bags available for purchase or trade, but also supplying the player with tasks to be completed that reward not only bonus items and money, but most importantly, large amounts of experience. Traders have 4 levels, ranging from 1 to 4 or Crown. In addition, through tasks, you have the ability to unlock additional items that they will stock for you once the task is completed. In order to level up your traders, you have to meet certain criteria for each level. There are requirements that the trader needs in order to be met that include having the PMC at a certain level, having the reputation level of the trader be above a certain point, and having transacted a certain amount of currency through the trader itself. Criteria not yet met will be illustrated in red text, while criteria that have been met will show light blue. When all of these conditions are met, the trader will level up and unlock the ability for the player to purchase or trade for the next tier of items. At this point, I'd like to give a very brief overview on what each of the traders tends to focus on. Pavel Yegorovich Romanenko, Prapor, is a warrant officer in charge of the supply warehouses for troops enforcing the Norvinsk region blockade. He secretly supplies PMCs with post-Soviet bloc weapons, such as the Kalashnikov series of rifle, ammunition, grenades, magazines, and some basic weapon modifications. Alexander Fyodorovich Kiselyov, or Skier, is a former employee of the port of Tarkov's customs terminal. During the conflict, Skier organized a gang to steal everything they could put their hands on in the vicinity of the terminal. Skier supplies moderate weapon modifications, rifles such as the SKS, shotguns, ammunition, item containers, and also provides a currency exchange from rubles to euros in the later game at a ratio of approximately 100:1. Elvira Kabibulina, or Therapist, is the head of the trauma care department of the Tarkov Central City Hospital. She provides medical supplies, food, keys, maps of the city, and some specialized storage containers in the later game. Fence, whose real name is unknown, established an anonymous marketplace for buying and selling goods via an organized smuggling network. He provides a marketplace for items that other traders will not buy, as well as a place for players to purchase items no longer wanted or needed by others. Players may find items they are unable to yet purchase through traditional means due to lack of personal experience, task completion, or trader level from Fence. Sergei Arsenovich Samoylov, or Mechanic, was a chemical plant foreman before the conflict. He now does advanced weapon modification works, maintenance, and repairs of advanced equipment and tech. He provides advanced weaponry and optics, advanced weapon modifications, magazines, and Glock pistols for both rubles and euros. Additionally, Mechanic is extremely proficient at repairing weapons and armor, albeit at a premium price. Tadeusz Pilsudski, or Peacekeeper, is a UN Forces supplies officer. He deals in US dollars or bartering for sought-after items only, and offers a currency exchange from rubles to dollars at a ratio of approximately 100:1. He provides Western weapons such as the AR-15 series of rifles, the MP5 and MPX, ammunition, grenades, magazines, basic armor, and advanced weapon modifications. Abramayan Arshavir Sarkisevich, or Ragman, was the director of a large market before the conflict. Now, he offers all types of clothing, armor, and other wearable gear, including the most advanced armor and backpacks or bags in the game. Escape from Tarkov's MMO elements include an experience-based system, along with a secondary proficiency system, or soft skill system, designed to increase the ability of a certain categorical aspect of the game through repetition. For example, if someone wanted to be able to sprint for a longer period of time, they would need to increase their skill in endurance. This comes from repeated, you guessed it, running. There are many different types of soft skills, including those for weapons, some of which are extremely powerful once you've been able to level them to maximum and be rewarded with some very good max level perks, which further augment the ability of your PMC to get the job done. In a later video, we will explore these soft skills in depth, along with what a player needs to do in order to level them. This brief overview of Tarkov's base game mechanics takes into consideration that you, the viewer, have some basic level of understanding of how shooting games work. For instance, you already have a firm grasp on how to strafe, lean, right-clicking the mouse ADSs, or how to sprint, etc. There are additional aspects to this game that are not commonly shared by other games in this genre, which I believe need to be addressed before we move on from this point. Once we've established all this baseline of understanding, we can build from here. Escape from Tarkov's on-hit mechanics have different status conditions when someone is hit, such as bleeding, fractures, concussions, and blindness. In addition, projectiles also have different mechanics, such as blunt damage, armor penetration, and fragmentation. The damage taken, the registering of a status effect, and how that affects your character overall can vary greatly between weapon type, ammo type, angle of attack, ballistics, and the level of armor being worn, if any, by the recipient. When taking damage, each region can be healed one at a time, independently of each other, by using different forms of medical aids available in the game via discovery or purchase. Some of these kits have added effects, such as stopping bleeding, burning, or curing toxicity. However, take note that currently the only HP draining status effect is bleeding, but we should see an expansion on this in future updates of the game. If a region of the body is damaged to the point where the HP bar reaches 0, that area of the body remains permanently damaged. In the case of the chest or head, this effect causes death. Bleeding is a damage over time mechanic that slowly drains life away from not only the affected body part, but the player's overall HP pool in slowly ticking damage. There can be one bleed effect per region of the body, which causes a stacking bleed. It is shown as a red heart icon in the corner of the player's screen with a number for the bleed count. This can be counteracted by using bandages or several of the game's medical kits that will cure this condition. Once used, the bandaged area receives an updated status of a fresh wound. This has the potential to essentially open the wound back up and cause a new bleed. Historically, this has almost always been caused by the player sprinting after healing, but currently, this seems to have been a far diminished chance of occurrence compared to previous patches and updates. Blindness, caused by flash grenades, creates a simulated retinal burn on the screen of the player, as well as causing the screen to blacken, simulating player blindness. Flash grenades are purchased from Prapper and are an effective addition to anyone's loadout. Fractures, or broken bones, are most commonly caused by falling from a higher than normal height, thus breaking one or both legs. They can occur also due to players being shot in the arms, as certain ballistic ammo types can cause fractures from the impact, especially if the arm is already blackened out. The icon for this is a small broken bone. Fractures also have a secondary effect of pain. There is an added visual effect of blurred vision, which can make the ongoing raid much more difficult due to problems being able to see. Pain can be counteracted by either using a painkiller or morphine injector. Fractures can also be counteracted themselves by utilizing the use of a splint. A broken leg or a blackened out leg will cause the character to limp. As a reminder, blackened limbs cannot be healed. 2 blacked out legs cause the character to limp even more slowly. Currently, the only way to counteract the limping effect is to use a painkiller or morphine injector to deaden the pain enough to where the player can once again run. However, if the player runs for more than a few seconds, the player will suffer ongoing damage every additional step of that run. Blunt damage is caused based on the concussive force of a projectile radiating through a piece of body armor into the player's affected body region. This will be explored more in a future episode. Armor penetration is caused by specific types of ammunition that are made to pierce through the armor the player is wearing, then delivering the damage to the individual as opposed to it being absorbed completely by the armor. Fragmentation damage is, in the most basic sense, a critical hit. A fragmenting round hits twice, sometimes to the same region of the body it initially struck, and sometimes radiating to a different nearby part of the body. The game uses a hit point mechanic that is broken down into different regions of the body: head, arms, chest, stomach, and legs. Each of these areas have different nuances that can be hit if the area is unprotected. For instance, the head is comprised of multiple on-hit areas, including the face, eyes, ears, top, and back, which have their own hit-registering regions themselves. If a player is wearing a helmet, but that helmet does not protect their face, they can still be hit for lethal damage in that soft spot, without the game considering the armor value of the surrounding helmet at all. This is also true for the stomach, arms, back, etc. Currently, there is no in-game armor of any kind for the legs, but we'll get into that in the future. The game offers several classes of armor, ranging from Gen 1, such as the 3M Tarbank Ballistic Vest, to the Gen 6 Fort. As you go up in armor class, you go up in the level of protection. This means that the armor is less likely to be penetrated by weapons fire, so you don't die. There is also a small melee component to the game where people can use a melee weapon to inflict damage. Most commonly, players implement the use of a Gerber downrange tomahawk or GDT, called a hatchet. Usually, you will see players on maps wearing no gear and only running with their melee weapon in their hand. This has been given the name hatchet running. More on that in a future video. Escape from Tarkov also implements a survival mechanic involving both food and drink. Throughout the raids and from Therapist, you can find juice, water, energy, and soft drinks, as well as MREs, lunchboxes, canned meat, candy bars, crackers, etc., that can be consumed to either raise your level of fatigue or your level of hydration. Dehydration can be dangerous. If the hydration level of your character gets to 0, your character will take continuous ticking damage due to a dehydration mechanic, essentially forcing you to die of thirst. If a player is shot in the stomach and that area is blackened out, this draining of the hydration meter is accelerated considerably to where the player can dehydrate and die in a matter of minutes, even if the player's hydration was originally at 100%. In the current build, fatigue does not play a large role in raids, but hydration does. If you are playing on a larger map that is designed to take a little while, it would be a good idea to at least bring something to drink along with you. Escape from Tarkov has a wide variety of weaponry, from pistols to submachine guns, assault rifles, standard rifles, and sniper rifles, the majority of which have an overwhelming number of attachments and weapon modifications that will take a bit of time to get used to. In a future video, I'll go more in depth with different builds that I believe to be usable as go-tos for each stage of a player's progression and how they are best utilized. Finally, for this introductory video, I wanted to talk a bit about cover, staying covered, and the game's meta. A metagame is simply defined as using out-of-game information to gain an in-game edge, or as I like to put it, doing what all of the successful guys are doing so that you can win. In other shooters, primarily the idea is to move quickly, find your target, shoot your target, and win. This is commonly referred to as run and gun. Tarkov's true nature is to work against this trend and force people to become more resourceful, slower paced in their movement and progress, and much, much more tactical. There are issues of contention regarding the state of the game and whether or not players still implementing run-and-gun tactics are better off doing so, but the overall metagame ideology is to shift away from any form of run-and-gun equals win and to tactics of strategy equals win. In Tarkov, the idea is to move as if you were a military operative. Running headlong at an opponent in a serpentine fashion is not an effective strategy. Instead, you should move between cover positions in order to gain an optimal angle to fire on your target during moments of opportunity. Also, you want to evaluate the type of cover you're behind. Doors and bookshelves, for example, can be penetrated by weapons fire. If you are standing behind that door, or bookshelf, or piece of sheet metal, chances are you're going to take a hit from the bullet penetrating the surface. Secondarily, you want to evaluate your surroundings so that you aren't flanked by a teammate of your target or a third party looking for an opportunistic engagement. Sound in Tarkov is paramount. If you make a noise, other people can hear it. It's the same for your opponents. Did you hear a grenade pin? Time to move. Did you hear them reloading a mag? Time to move. Did you hear footsteps to your left? Time to check a corner, etc. The game's sound can be very accurate once you are used to the dynamics. Use it to your advantage. In the current build, there are issues with the soundscape. For instance, the sound of grenades, opening of locked doors, and other sounds can be heard from much further away than is natural in the real world. My assumption is that the game will be making further progress on this, and it will come into its own in short order. Escape from Tarkov, in my opinion, is the most ambitious shooter that has ever been designed, and it's been created by an extremely passionate and dedicated development team. Their ability to create what they have with a team as small as they have is absolutely staggering. The game itself can be incredibly unforgiving to new players, and there will be times that you will throw up your hands in frustration. My advice in this situation is to don't quit. If you stick with the game, you'll soon find yourself coming into your own, with the comfortability of the game's mechanics and making significantly more rubles than you lose. Thank you all very much for watching this first video of this informational series. Hopefully these Tarkov for Dummies guides end up being a sound educational resource for the community, and I look forward to any feedback that you all might have.